Hey everybody, it's Tripl-L, and now let's talk Recreators just a little bit. Recreators was a series I was covering on the channel and I had to drop it because I just had too much going on, couldn't deal with it. But recently, we had the Recreators Climax. We dealt with our main villain in the recent episode. I think it was episode 21. Overall, that episode, I think you can argue it's the climax for the Recreators series, and there was some discussion that popped up in that episode, and it kind of was also a climax from other discussions that were going on from a bit earlier in Recreators, mostly during its very slow episode run. I think it was like 3 or 4 episodes that were very slow because they were all set up, and the idea that was popping up in that episode, the climax, was this a boring climax? And you had that really old discussion of like, no, this is like a good climax versus people saying, no, this is just boring. And that idea, I felt like, hey, okay, you know what? Let's talk about the climax. Let's actually talk about Recreators, and let's talk about how appropriate that climax could have been. So this is going to be a very free-flowing discussion having to do with Recreators' general climax. And we're going to start off with my general opinions about it. But just remember, we're ultimately going to be hitting the topic of, was this boring or was it not? So for me, I really thought that climax was appropriate. I really thought, you know what, given what Recreators set up for itself, given its standard, given what it had already done before, this is consistent with Recreators' general approach. I'm pretty happy with that climax. And really the resolution to Altair's whole antagonistic run, I'm okay with them deciding, hey, let's just break her down from her emotion standpoint. Let's be really unfair to her. I am okay with that kind of rationale, especially in Recreators' case where they went out of their way and they gave us 2 solid episodes of just hardcore action. In terms of the action quota, they really did reach it with those 2 episodes, because those 2 episodes were really intense to watch. And heck, all the episodes once the Chamber Elimination Festival started, they were really interesting to watch. So from the level of, did we get enough action to warrant a non-violent conclusion, I think that you could say like, yeah, they gave us enough. They gave us enough action that at that point, I really didn't need to see Altair becoming or being defeated just having a hardcore fight anymore when we were already having hardcore fights. That was my general perception for justifying like, yeah, I'm okay with this non-violent resolution. When you look at that climax of episode 21, we spent the whole episode dealing with Altair's feelings, and I understand though, for a lot of people that could be boring, especially if you're riding the high from the previous episodes, which were pretty heavy on the action. And you know, that perspective of this is boring, and then you having people defending like, no, like it wasn't. We got so much important. We got to see Altair in a completely different light for that episode, you know, and that's another part that is really valuable here. When we exchanged the action in Recreators, what we ultimately got was this episode where we saw Altair expressing very human feelings. Like, she was animated in a way that really showed how vulnerable she was as a character. And so this wasn't just a simple cop-out in terms of an ending. No, we instead of action, we got to see some pretty good characterization for Altair. We hadn't really seen this before, but it was appropriate in terms of like, yeah, it makes sense that this would be her breaking point. But again, that knee-jerk reaction to say that this episode was boring, you know, it ultimately does make sense. I understand why people would say that. Some people just, when they come in to watch a series, they may not value these type of conclusions. They may not value that talking or just feelings took precedent over hardcore or action. It's just a difference in values. And one of the things that pops up in this kind of discussion when you're having this argument of, was this boring versus was this good? You know, a lot of people will make the association that boring is equal to not good, and it depends on what your what your criteria is, right? Like, if it's not entertaining for you, then naturally it's going to be boring. But does that take away from it being good? The most objective answer is like, no, not really, because it depends on ultimately your taste. But the thing that was prominent when it came to Recreators is that people were saying, you know, just leave this series, go to another series. And that mentality in of itself is a bit counterintuitive. It's a bit rough. Like, ideally, we need as many people watching a series as possible. We need that popularity. And the sad truth is, or not even a sad truth, but the reality of the situation is that the people who have the knee-jerk reaction of this is boring, or the people that are there for the action, they are a significant population. Like, they are a population that should be appreciated to some degree. Of course, when they come into a series that has a conclusion, that has legitimate feeling behind it, it becomes a bit upsetting to see them just throw away all that build-up, or throw away all that goodwill or that good feeling just because they didn't get to see some people getting their face punched in. It is really unfortunate to see that reaction. And for recreators, it was made a lot worse because this was a series that was being hyped up. And so when you got into that second half of the season, you had these really slow episodes. And at that point, it really should have told you, like, hey, like, this series is capable of having some slow episodes. And that it does seem like we're going to be going into a place where we're going to be dealing with a very emotional, or something that's gonna, like, Altair is being built up, like, she's too powerful that we really might need a goodwill message to deal with Altair in the ending. So, you know, it was made worth it with recreators. It was being hyped up for the normal viewer to think, like, yeah, this is going to be just action all the time, and that expectation was ultimately, it wasn't going to work out. That said, recreators, again, in terms of balancing things out, I think it did a really great job. I think it set up all its action. We got to see as much action as the setup episodes were promising. And then for the final episode, like, really, they could have ended it with their plan of just having the Altair clone taking over Altair, and there, we're done. We beat her. That would have been a nice ending. They went all out for that fight. They had a lot of sacrifices, but Altair was too powerful and she cheated. So them responding with an equal, like, high level cheat coming from Soda and recreating her creator, you know, I think that was appropriate at that point. And then from there, Altair also takes her own happy ending into her own hands. And this is important because, like, when you realize this, when you, like, look at it, you realize that Altair got her happy ending, even though she was responsible for a lot of death and carnage. Like, she killed Mamika, she killed Alistaria, she messed with a lot of our characters. So, like, when you look at this, and this is kind of one of the cooler aspects, like, just if you look at it in this light, Altair got her happy ending, even though she, like, destroyed so many people, even though she was even though she wanted to destroy the world. And it's like, yeah, you know what? You probably should let her get her happy ending, because otherwise this woman will kill us all, right? I like this kind of approach, that she was allowed to get her happy ending because she was just, that was the only way to get her out of here. Like, let's just give her what she wants and we're done. Like, we don't have to deal with her anymore. She won't bother us anymore. I like that kind of approach. I like that that's how it ended up, because it doesn't really take away anything from the viewer. It just says that, hey, Altair was such a threat that we have to give her a happy ending. She fought for her happy ending, and at that point it's like, I don't want to go anywhere near that thing. Yeah, she killed a lot of people, but yeah, we can't deal with it. Like, it's better to stop chasing after her here. Otherwise, we're going to lose the whole world. I like that kind of mentality. And if you, like, thought about it like that, it would be like, yeah, you know, it wouldn't feel that cheap. But yeah, overall, with recreators, like, the general idea of this discussion was, I believe that they balanced it out enough. I think they gave us enough action beforehand, and that climax was deserved. It was Altair's moment to be selfish, and she ultimately got what she wanted out of just virtue of how powerful the girl was. Also, like, again, it's a very emotional ending, so in terms of, like, making people feel something, I think it's an episode that did well. Of course, there are going to be the people that said it was boring, but that was just, I think, really a product of unrealistic expectations. Those fans, however, that would say it's boring shouldn't be crucified. It's just a matter of people having different taste, and unfortunately, they were told that for some fans, they might have been told that this was a series that was going to be something that it wasn't, and that was made clear by the second half of the season. And if you stuck with it, you know, you were signing up for a potentially disappointing ending by your standards. Anyway, overall, recreators, we have episode 22 next week. I'm pretty excited to see what it's going to be. I do think it might be a nice epilogue episode, and I love it when series give us a full episode long epilogue. I haven't seen a preview yet, so hopefully that's what it's going to be. But anyway, guys, let me know what you thought of the Recreators Climax. Let me know if you enjoyed it. Let me know down below. But yeah, till next time, I hope you have a great day.